The Black Sea has long been one of the most strategically sensitive regions in the world. Sitting at the crossroads of Europe, the Middle East, and Eurasia, the sea connects energy corridors, military supply routes, and geopolitical spheres of influence. Over the last several years, tensions surrounding the Black Sea have intensified as major powers attempt to reshape the balance of power in the region. At the center of the latest controversy stands Turkey, a NATO member whose unique geography and independent foreign policy have placed it in a complicated position between Western alliance commitments and regional strategic interests. Turkey controls the Bosporus and Dardanelles Straits, the narrow waterways that link the Mediterranean Sea to the Black Sea. These straits are among the most important maritime choke points in the world. The legal framework governing these waters is defined by the Montreux Convention regarding the regime of the straits, signed in 1936. The agreement grants Turkey control over military transit between the Mediterranean and the Black Sea and limits the presence of non-Black Sea navies in the region. The convention has become the central factor in the current dispute between Turkey and several NATO partners. As tensions between Russia and Ukraine intensified and the security environment around the Black Sea deteriorated, NATO members began discussing expanded naval deployments to deter Russian military power. However, these proposals immediately ran into the legal limits imposed by the Montreux Convention, which restricts how long non-Black Sea warships can remain in the region and caps the total tonnage of such fleets. Turkey's government, led by Recep Tayyip Erdogan, has insisted that the convention must be strictly respected. Ankara argues that the treaty is essential for preventing escalation and maintaining balance between regional powers. Turkish officials warn that altering or bypassing the treaty could trigger unpredictable military consequences. Some NATO strategists, particularly in Washington and several Eastern European capitals, have argued that stronger naval presence is necessary to deter Russian influence in the Black Sea. They believe that without a significant NATO maritime presence, Russia could dominate the region and threaten critical trade routes and coastal nations. Turkey's position complicates these plans. Because it controls the straits, Ankara effectively acts as the gatekeeper for any large-scale naval deployment entering the Black Sea. This gives Turkey extraordinary leverage within NATO decision-making regarding the region. Ankara's approach reflects a broader strategic doctrine emphasizing autonomy in foreign policy. Turkey remains a NATO member and hosts critical alliance infrastructure, yet it also maintains diplomatic and economic ties with Russia and other regional powers. Turkish leaders describe this approach as a balancing strategy designed to protect national interests in a rapidly changing geopolitical landscape. The Black Sea itself has become increasingly militarized. Russia maintains major naval bases in the region and has invested heavily in coastal missile systems, submarines, and air defense networks. These capabilities enable Moscow to project power across the sea and into parts of the Mediterranean and Middle East. Meanwhile, NATO member states such as Romania and Bulgaria view the growing Russian presence with concern. Both countries have called for stronger NATO military engagement to ensure regional security and protect maritime trade routes. Turkey's role in this equation is complex. On one hand, Ankara has supported Ukrainian sovereignty and provided military equipment to Kiev. On the other hand, Turkey has maintained diplomatic channels with Moscow and positioned itself as a mediator in several negotiations. This dual approach reflects Turkey's geographic reality. The country shares the Black Sea with Russia, Ukraine, Georgia, Romania, and Bulgaria. Instability in the region directly affects Turkish trade, energy routes, and national security. Turkish officials argue that maintaining the Montreux Convention protects the region from becoming an arena for great power naval confrontation. By limiting the presence of outside fleets, the treaty helps prevent the Black Sea from turning into a heavily contested military zone dominated by non-regional actors. Critics within NATO believe the policy gives Russia a strategic advantage because Moscow's navy is permanently based in the region while Western fleets face restrictions on entry and duration of stay. They argued that Turkey's strict enforcement of the treaty indirectly limits NATO's ability to counterbalance Russian military power. The disagreement has fueled debate about whether the Black Sea should remain governed by historical legal frameworks or adapt to modern security realities. Some policymakers suggest negotiating new arrangements, but altering the Montreux Convention would require broad international agreement and could provoke strong reactions from multiple states. Turkey has repeatedly rejected suggestions that the treaty should be revised. Ankara insists that the agreement has preserved stability for nearly a century and should remain the foundation of Black Sea security. Energy considerations further complicate the situation. The Black Sea hosts major pipeline routes transporting natural gas and oil between Eurasia and Europe. Control over these corridors carries enormous economic and strategic value. Turkey itself has invested heavily in offshore energy exploration in the region, seeking to reduce dependence on imported energy. These efforts increase Ankara's interest in maintaining regional stability and preventing escalation. The evolving security environment has also revived discussions about alternative maritime strategies within NATO. Some analysts propose strengthening coastal defense systems in allied Black Sea states rather than relying primarily on naval deployments. Others argue for expanding surveillance, drone patrols, and intelligence cooperation to monitor Russian activity without violating the Montreux Convention's limits on warship presence. Turkey has expressed openness to cooperative security measures that do not undermine the treaty. Turkish officials emphasize that the country remains committed to NATO's collective defense principles but believes regional stability must be preserved through balanced policies. Diplomatic tensions occasionally surface when alliance members publicly question Turkey's approach. Ankara typically responds by reaffirming its commitment to international law and the Montreux framework. Despite disagreements, Turkey continues to participate in NATO exercises and regional security initiatives. The alliance still relies on Turkish territory for air bases, radar installations, and logistical hubs that support operations across Europe and the Middle East. This interdependence means that while tensions may arise, both sides have strong incentives to maintain cooperation. The Black Sea dispute illustrates a broader trend within NATO: the increasing diversity of strategic perspectives among member states. Countries facing different security challenges and regional realities often prioritize different approaches to managing risk. For Turkey, protecting sovereignty over the straits and maintaining balanced regional relations are central priorities. For some NATO members, countering Russian influence takes precedence. These perspectives are not necessarily incompatible, but they require careful diplomacy to reconcile. The coming years will likely determine whether the Montreux Convention continues to serve as the cornerstone of Black Sea security or whether geopolitical pressures eventually push governments toward new arrangements. What is certain is that Turkey's control of the straits ensures that Ankara will remain a decisive actor in any future strategy for the region. As global power competition intensifies, the Black Sea may become one of the most important theaters where the balance between regional autonomy and alliance coordination is tested. Turkey's choices will shape not only the future of NATO's strategy but also the stability of one of the world's most strategically vital maritime corridors.
You've been watching Echoes of Africa, where every story carries the sound of tomorrow. If this moved you, subscribe now, like, and share so Africa's voice never fades into silence.